For some of our listeners out there who don't know, Lance has 3 kids. So I guess you could say it's basically Christmas morning every day for him. Never a dull moment. And of course, I'm sure his kids are all angels. Straight A's, pick up their toys every night type of kids. Isn't that right, Lance?
That's right.
Don't answer that. Okay, you answered. I thought you were
right.
gonna say something else. Anyway, I'm sure all kids have at least thrown a tantrum once in a while, or maybe pushed their sibling, or I don't know, even crashed their parents' car into a light pole or something like that. So it'd be interesting to see how, as a parent today, how you discipline your kids versus how you were disciplined as a kid. And what better way to have this conversation than with a couple more parents, namely Giselle and Harlene from their Hard as a Mother podcast. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having us.
Hey guys, Har here. It's an honor to be here.
It's an honor for you having to come talk with us on this awesome topic. So before we start, could you also give a little kind of like a background on your own podcast as well?
Yeah, so our podcast is based here in Calgary, just like you guys. Our mission is to create a safe space for moms, dads, caregivers, or anyone really to share in the joys, the highs, the lows, and the hardships of parenting, and while also being able to laugh at ourselves, because at the end of the day, nobody really knows what they're doing. We're all just winging it. And, we want to create a community of people who, like-minded people who can get together and celebrate that it's just okay to just not be okay some days, and then other days just really bask in the joy of parenting.
Awesome. And for our visual listeners out there, you guys also have a YouTube channel as well too, correct? That they can go on and take a look.
Yeah.
And it is, the production quality, by the way, listeners, is excellent. So be sure to check them out. On our description, when we post out this episode, we're going to put a link to their Instagram and all that on our own description for the episode. So check it out when the episode comes out. So let's start with the way back when you were kids. So first off, and I guess I can start with you, Giselle. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have one older brother and one younger sister.
One older brother. And how about you, Harlene?
3 older brothers. I'm the youngest. 4 out of 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess for you guys, who got in trouble the most? I guess.
Sorry. Go ahead, Giselle.
In my family, I got in trouble the most, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's because I was the first girl, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but my brother was an angel. Well, came off as an angel and got away with everything, and he was the golden child. And then there was me, so I kind of paved the way for my sister, and I got in trouble for all the things first. And then when they got to her, they're kind of just well, I already did this. I already punished someone for this. You know what I mean? So I got the shit end of the stick there.
What about you, Harley?
So it's a bit different with our upbringing. I would say that we all equally got in trouble in different ways. My older brothers, my dad was really strict with them. So a little context is I was born in the Philippines. So we moved to Calgary when I was just 5. So my brother's upbringing was in the Philippines. So when my dad would whistle when they're outside, they better be home within that 10 seconds by the time his third whistle. If he didn't, and these are all stories that my brothers would tell me, and I've witnessed a couple of times even here and back home. If by the third whistle and they're not home, their pants need to be dropped because my dad would be spanking them in front of people. My dad's he's from the Navy, so he was a hard ass. My dad was really great with me when I was younger, but it's when I became a teenager where we didn't see eye to eye anymore, and he just had a tight fist. But I got a lot of beats and I got a lot of licking from my dad, whether I was wrong, right, if it was in a shitty mood. I did get into a lot of trouble in my more so because I wanted to rebel against my dad.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So in your family, it was all equal. Ben, woman, you everybody's getting beats versus in Giselle's family that your brother knew how to play it right.
Well, I mean, he still got beats, but like,
Oh,
he just got away with more things, you know. And I think I brought this up in another episode of ours where, like, when my brother would get drunk, like, there's this one time he got drunk and like puked in a cab, and he had to like pay the cab driver, but he was so drunk that he just like threw money at him or whatever. It was like such a funny story. Everyone was like, "Oh, did you hear what Jordan did? It was so funny." If I ever did that, like the slightest thing, everyone's just like, "Oh my god, what's wrong with her?" kind of thing, you know? Because of course he's a guy, right? So
Yeah, that's actually funny. Like, I don't know if this is in all Asian cultures, but like in Chinese, like usually the guys kind of get away with a little bit more because like I don't know why. Like I think it's because like um like I don't know, something about Chinese where they look at the guys because you're gonna carry the name or whatever, that you can get away with a little bit more versus if you were like if you were the girl in the family, you kind of can't get away with stuff. I don't know if that is the same with you guys or not.
Oh yeah,
mhm.
it's definitely the same that I mean, I had three older brothers, right? So they got away with a lot of shit. They got to go out more than I did. My dad never let me out. And it's funny because I was reading my yearbook, God, a couple weeks ago or no, a couple months ago, and someone said, "Stop getting in shit so you could go out." I was like, "Man, no, man, my dad just never let me out." But my brother was able to go out. They were praised and high fives having girlfriends, but we were told we couldn't have boyfriends because we had everything to lose. Like it was crazy. Like
Yeah.
it was really hard for me growing up here for the fact that my dad was like okay with bad behavior my brothers were doing when they were teenagers and like into their when they were going into adulthood, and I was like, this is not fair, like it just isn't. And I there was no reasoning. The reasoning was behind they would just say, just do as you're told, and I was like, this is bullshit.
I it's
Definitely is a double standard. Yeah.
double standard. I don't like, for me now, because I have two daughters as well. It's always like I feel like I'm on protective mode. So I can maybe relate or resonate with your father just because I feel like I have to protect my daughters. But obviously that is not the right way to do it. It's about having a good discussion, and obviously that trust between two people is has to be there. But I guess in some joking sense, it's like he was trying to protect you from um, the outside world, because in some sense it just feels like the outside world is can be a scary place anyways.
wait.
Especially now,
Yeah.
and like we talked about this not too long ago, is that everything that's going on right now with all the attacks on women in
Mhm.
Calgary, like and I have a daughter, so yeah, that scares the shit out of me. And it wasn't like when I was going out with my friends when we were younger, we were able to walk everywhere until the sun was gone. And it's kind of unheard of to do that now unless you're like in a really safe neighborhood, but there really is no safer neighborhood than the next, right? And I guess I do understand. And my dad would always say, you won't understand until you have a kid of your own. And I get that. But like in turn, because now, Lance, you have a boy now. So I'm sure you, with everything that's going on with like the Me Too movement and all that, like we need to teach our girls how to protect themselves, but we also need to teach our boys um more respect, like
Absolutely.
and like teach them about consent.
Yeah.
And that's what Har teaches her son all the time, and he's like such a gentleman. So
Oh
I
yeah,
think just,
1,000.
yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. Like, I think that's we're talking about discipline today, but we also have to teach. Obviously, girls have to learn to protect themselves, but also men have to learn to respect women, and that's a big thing, right? I mean, I did read the article there. I mean, I think there was three women that was walking downtown, and got attacked by like a swarm of men. Like I think there was 20 of them or something. It was caught on camera. I don't know if you guys heard
In
about that
Calgary?
in Calgary.
She got
Uh,
dragged to like an alley or something.
Oh
it,
my
it's
god.
bizarre, but like I mean, we're talking about 20 guys, right? And just for guys to just stand around, maybe you didn't participate or whatnot, but you know, this is just something that I think parents have to be aware of, and that we have to make sure that we're teaching our children the proper things, right? That, and that's
Mhm.
just, I mean, that's not right, even if it was just three men walking and being attacked
Mhm.
in a group. But yeah, you're right. It's just, it just feels like a little bit more of a dangerous world out there now.
Totally,
That's why
totally.
you gotta get your girls enrolled in some judo chop. You know what I'm
Working
saying?
on it.
Oh God.
Working on it.
You know,
It's like,
having three older brothers plus my dad, it's funny because I still have, even though my dad was really tough on me, he would always tell me how to walk with my car keys in my hand when I'm walking. Um, like
oh,
dark spots. So when I'm walking to my car, there's a way that I hold my car keys. So if I get attacked, it's slashed right to the face with my car key. Like it's crazy because my dad was in the Navy, right? So
Mm.
my brother
yeah.
would tell me, like certain points where you could get someone, or I mean, kick them on the balls, whatever you need to do. But the biggest thing for me is because I have a son, I tell him like that could be your cousin, that could be your mom, even if you like any type of bad behavior, even if you don't want to say anything at that particular moment, if someone's being harmed or endangered, like I think you have the responsibility to say something, because if you don't, this is where the cycle happens. He's been ousted out. Actually, this is the I actually had to move him out of a different school because he was ousted out because some guys that were supposedly his friends, they were I guess trying to claim ownership on girls. You know how it is when we were kids. And my son's like, I didn't even like her. I like offered my sweater, walked her home, and they thought that was just me liking her or thinking I'm going to steal their girlfriend or something. He's just like, I just wanted to make sure she was home safe because that's what you were taught, like, and so I'm proud of him with that, but in another sense, like again, those boys were not taught by their parents. Like, like make sure people are safe, not even if it's a girl or a guy, but I don't think we're doing a good job. We need to do a better job of educating our kids because it really does come to us. And if we don't talk about it, then we're still creating that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough to hear about those situations, especially when you talk about your boy that's being brought up right, and then it's like you're going against the social means of guys, and that's hard, because here you are being taught how to grow up, like how to be respectful, and then you got a bunch of other people telling you that's not cool, type of thing, right? And it sucks, I think.
That's a good tip with the key thing though, eh? I should tell my sister to carry her key
Yeah.
like that.
So when you have the key, you get your middle finger, and if there's a ring around it, you keep the key standing up right onto your palm. So you have it tucked inside. So if somebody comes and grabs you, you slash the front of your key right to their face, or you poke them in the eye with it. That's what my dad taught me how to do for self-defense when I am walking to my car, and I should always have my key before I walk out of a building so I can beat my car and not try to take it out of my purse and while I'm in front of my car. That just,
Yeah.
and it's funny because this is probably bad to say, but my dad or my brothers would always say, "Don't be that stupid girl." I don't like the way that they say that because it's like you're like demeaning women and girls. But he was like, "Just don't be that stupid girl." Like it could be anything. It's like learn how to do shit is what they're meaning by that. They shouldn't say that, but that's what they mean. It was like they gave me a hard time when I didn't know how to change my own tire. They didn't when I didn't know how to pump gas, when I didn't know how to check my oil. Like they were hard on me. So
You gotta love those older siblings. You know, that's what they're there for.
I didn't at first, but you know what? If you're thinking of it from like a standpoint where I am as an adult now, they made me you know, there's times where I'm not soft and I'm just very hard on like anybody around me. It's because I grew up like a boy, like a guy, like a dude. So
Mhm.
it's not always good, but I do appreciate them for sure.
So, and this was actually, I wanted to ask you this right previously because this was like on my mind the entire time right after you said this. When you said that your dad would spank your brothers outside in the open, are you talking about outside, like out of the house, pants down?
Out of the house in front of neighbors
In the Philippines.
in
though.
the Philippines.
Right, yeah.
And that's totally
Yeah.
allowed in the Philippines. Like,
Oh fuck yeah, yeah. Hell yeah.
like
Oh,
to
sorry,
this
can I
day-
swear on here?
yeah, that's fine. We'll just bleep you right out. No.
No.
But
Oh, you're gonna have a lot.
You're gonna have
to
a lot
bleep
of-
out.
but is
Just
that
gotta
still
slide that.
is that still allowed to this day in the Philippines? Like to
Yes.
have
I don't see it being a problem, to be honest. Philippines is fucked up.
Yo, Hong Kong, same thing. That's probably, I don't know about I don't know. I haven't been there in a while, but like back then, from the stories of my dad, when my dad was telling me he got beat by his mom, which is I get my grandmother.
Schools
I
used to
guess.
do that. Do they still do that
Yeah,
in
yeah.
like some part of Asia where you get like get a ruler and somebody spanks you like in class?
Oh,
Yeah, because I heard that happen to my parents, but do they do that?
yeah. I don't know if they still do it, but I did hear that in some of the rural areas, that is kind of still how they discipline the kids. So I'm not sure
I
if
see
it
it,
happens in the main bigger cities, but yeah, that definitely still happens. So
effective. Would you say though that like these physical kind of instances of disciplining is effective?
Oh,
No. I think whoever you ask could be different, but
Yeah.
the intention where I grew up, I mean, I fucking hated my dad for that. Until my dad's dying deathbed, I was resentful towards my dad. I loved my dad for sure, but it's when he actually passed away is when I let it all go because he didn't address it to me as an adult of why he didn't apologize for it. He apologized like for being a shitty dad, but then I only started to realize after his passing that he didn't know any better. And through all of the things that I've been learning on this podcast with Giselle, is that holy shit, I also had a part to play in the fact that I think my dad was trying to extend an olive branch, but I kept swatting it because I'm like, nah, it's too late. It's never too late for anything. So that's something that I struggle with because I think I could have had a better relationship with my dad if I had just wasn't so resentful. But I don't think spanking works because your kids will just hate you for it.
and for
Giselle,
me,
yeah.
like before I had a kid, I was like, you know what? I grew up scared of my dad, which in turn made me not behave, but like follow the rules because I was so scared of him. So before I had a kid, I'm just like, yeah, I'm totally going to spank my kids because it worked on me and I was so obedient. But then I thought about it after I had a kid and I'm like, what is my relationship now with my dad? Like I do like heart resent him for a lot of the things that happened when I grew up and, the physical aspect of it. And it was a really shitty feeling. And yeah, I was scared of him, but then I was also scared to tell him the truth when it came to things that I did. And I don't ever want that to happen with my daughter. I don't ever want a relationship with her where she's like, oh shit, I can't tell my mom this because she's going to flip out. I want her to be able to say, I'm in trouble. I'm going to call my mom. Because growing up, every time I got in trouble, I would call my cousins because I could not call my mom or my dad. Like it was out of the question. And I know that they would say like, they would ask me, they would tell me like, if you're in trouble, call us, whatever. It wasn't happening. And I don't want that relationship with my daughter. So I ended up making the decision not to hit her. And I was so set on that, by the way. I was like, it's gonna work. It's gonna
So,
work, guys. I'm gonna be the best parent.
so Lance, I'm gonna ask you: do you think like when your kids are a little bit older that I mean, there's no shame. If you want to spank them, great, whatever. Like, I'm not going to judge you. I just don't think it's effective, but to each their own. But do you think is that something, or like for both of you, I'm going to ask, I know, um, is that one that you think you'll incorporate into parenting or when you have kids later down the future?
Well, I think for myself, like I didn't actually grow up. My parents actually never really beat me. So the my grandparents was actually the ones that would actually take the bamboo or like a wooden stick to me and or physically just kick me or punch me. But my parents actually didn't do a whole lot of that. My dad would do a lot of scare tactics. So he'd kind of tell you that, he would, what he would do is he specialized in this, they get the towel wet and then he strikes you with it. I don't know, but he used to just kind of do that and flick it at us and never really hit us. But that would be his little scare tactic. But I do think like, I think being a parent, you often kind of resort back to how you were growing up. And obviously, if you were traumatized by some of those actions, you typically try to react differently from how it is. But yeah, I mean, with my kids, it's such a tough topic because I have this with my with talk this conversation with my friends, and a lot of times like I don't know if it's a guy thing or whatever, but guys are always like, oh yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna beat him, right? And maybe it's a guy to a guy, not so much as a guy to a girl. But that's they're like, yeah, that's how I was taught, and that's how I'm gonna do it. But I don't think that, to me, anyways. I haven't done these with my kids, but there's always a lot of you got to do the what is it, timeouts. You got to start taking away things. But I think what people, or not people, but I guess people, but what we don't realize is that we have to make a transition, right? Because kids, as they grow up, they start to understand. So you have to start to reason, and you have to find different ways to discipline. It's not always the same way. And every child is different. So maybe one child reacted good with a way that you're disciplining, and then the next child, they don't react the same way to it. It's kind of like timeouts, right? Like my second daughter, she loves it, so she's like, yeah, put me in timeout, I don't care, right? And so it's like, oh, yeah, it's just like,
That
what?
doesn't
Like,
work
got
that
that
way.
back
You know that,
talk.
right?
yeah, she's like, where do you want me? You want me in timeout? Okay, so she'll do something bad. So you like, okay, it doesn't work for this one. And so, like, I don't necessarily, yeah, going back to the question, is just, I don't think that spanking is gonna really get the idea out, because you don't, like you say, you don't want the children to be afraid of you. You want them to respect you, but I don't think you want to build that fear in them, right? So you want them to be able to tell you things, like you were saying, Giselle, is that you didn't want to talk to your dad and tell him the things because you were just so scared, right? And already traumatized by what had happened in the past, that
Yeah.
maybe he didn't ever try to gain that trust back from you. And so that relationship just didn't go as well as it could have. So yeah, that's my take.
And I totally agree with that, about how there's so many different ways to discipline. And I think right now, because we have the internet, because we have so many resources, so many parenting resources, that there's so many ways to go about it. And someone's always going to say you're wrong. And someone's always going to say, judge you for it or whatever, right? But you're right. At the end of the day, it's what works for the kids. Like, I know a lot of people who are like, no, I don't put my kid in timeout, but I totally do. Because it's not punishing them. It's just giving them a chance to think about what they did and come back and, collect themselves. But that's just me. But my dad, he's more than trying to make up for it now, being a grandpa, because he will let my daughter get away with murder. But with me, like, we haven't really repaired that relationship of when I grew up. But I can tell that he's like trying to move on from it, because obviously our relationship is better now, but I can't talk to him in a way that I wish I could. And we're not close by any means. Like, yeah, we're good, but I still am afraid to tell him certain things. Like, didn't I like recently say something like, oh, if my dad asks whatever, I still have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, and I have a different angle. I don't know if you guys know, Giselle and I are cousins, so we grew up together.
Oh,
So, um,
okay.
uh, and I see her dad in a different way, but more the fact that we have had more conversations what actually happens behind um closed doors when they were growing up as kids. It was different from my, because I I am like, I'm not gonna lie, I envied her and her family dynamics compared to mine, because I'm like, fuck, I wish I had a dad like that, you know um but I didn't know the things that was happening behind closed doors. It's just funny because sometimes she's like, sure, you can have whatever you want in my life, but here's the payoff for all these things. And and people don't see, everything is optics, everything's so surface level. Do you know what I mean? Like, people don't see, all people see is, Giselle, you're ungrateful because you're XYZ. And it's like, no, no, no. There's a reason why she feels the way that she feels. And sometimes we still struggle as that as an adult. And it's not that we're ungrateful. It's just we got fucked up in the process of it. And now we're trying to figure out how do we regulate our own emotions and not fuck up our kids with what we learned. Like, I'm probably gonna get slack for this because my son knows I'm on this I'm on this podcast
Well,
tonight.
you're in his room.
Well, I'm in his room. So I don't know, Lance or Eric, when you do decide to have kids, Eric. I'm a single mom, and my parenting style and my ex's parenting style is completely different. He wanted to spank my child, and I said, over my dead body, you spank my child, I will murder you. Like, I was very, very adamant. So I think my son had a blow up about something, and he tried to lunge at my son, and I was literally there when he tried to spank him, and I intercepted, and he literally grabbed my son by the leg and dragged him across the floor because he was trying to get him away from me, because he's like, he's at my house right now. And it was a drop-off exchange, and just something, it escalated so far. So he was dragging my son, and my son was like probably 8. And that traumatized the shit out of me, because I'm seeing this guy who's supposed to be his son, loving his son, drag him across the floor. Oh man, I literally lunged and tackled his dad and grabbed my son and walked out the door. And I said, you ever touch my fucking son again, we will have a problem. And he's like, whatever I do when I parent my kid at my house is going to be different from, I said, no, it doesn't work that way. We need to, we struggled. We had a power struggle over that. And I think now it's actually fucked up my kid, because he doesn't want to tell his dad things that he knows his dad's going to lose his shit. Like, even when he's not even,
I grew up.
Yeah, even when he's not, when I know that his dad won't spank him till like now, because my son's gonna be 16, right? He won't. He chooses to tell me, and it's so minor sometimes. I was like, dude, why don't you just tell your dad? He's like, you know how dad is. We have this thing. We like if his dad's around, we'll start mooing. We're like, oh my god, he's gonna moo. It's because he's about to have a cow, so that's like our signal. Which I shouldn't.
Okay.
I shouldn't be doing that with him, but it's funny because I was like, fuck, your dad's just like having a cow. But then again, that also stems from his dad's dad, or the parenting. So it was really hard. Like, when your ex is doing that to your child, like, I don't, we had a hard road when it came to getting on board and parenting Jaden without spanking, because I think there's just so much more. And because that happened early to Jaden, he doesn't tell his dad certain things because he just thinks his dad's gonna like spank him or lunge at him or hit him. So,
Mhm.
sorry, Lance, but the question that I wanted to ask you was like, do you have any differences? And even to Giselle, like, I already know, but I think for the podcast listeners, like, is that is that something that you guys both struggle with your partner on the raising on how to raising your child?
I'll let
You go first, Lance.
I was just gonna say I'll let you go, but um, you know, it is ultimately. I always tell everybody this, and a child is like the ultimate test to a relationship because
Mhm.
you know you can get along just fine, but when a child comes into the picture, you know everybody has their own expectations or their own ways of how they like to deal with the child, and so it becomes you know kind of prudent to uh, make sure that you're together, right? And whatever happens, that's what happens. And I've been lucky that me and my wife, you know, although we've had our differences, we try to not undermine each other's decisions. So that you know, if mom says something, I'm kind of like, hey, your mom says that, then that's that. And she's the same, so she won't, you know, kind of defy me and come around and say, well, if your dad says that's okay, then you go ahead and you'll do it. And then if there's something that we just don't agree on, we try not to do it in front of the kids, and we come back, you know, behind closed doors type of thing, and go, hey, listen,
Mhm.
listen, that I didn't feel right to do it that way. You know, maybe we should think about that. And so, you know, we come back and talk about that. But it's tough. We've been lucky. Like I say, me and my wife have been just you know pretty much on the same page for most of the things. But I've know families that aren't, and I've know that you know I have friends that are divorced, and because of those very reasons where you know they just can't come to the consensus. And the unfortunate part uh, like I say, Harleen, is when you know even though you're separated or divorced, you're still the co-parent. You know, you're still parenting. It doesn't mean that you're out of the picture unless unless the parent is completely out of the picture, then that's a different story. But if you're still there, you know somehow you got to find a way to still work together to try to parent this child, right? Or these children. So yeah, that's my take. How about you, Giselle?
I think you hit the nail on the head because one thing I learned from watching my cousins raise their kids is not to undermine the other person in front of the kid, because then it turns into a fight between you and your partner instead of you and the kid, and then the whole family dynamic just like falls apart because now everyone's mad at each other. But for me, my partner and I are for the most part on the same page when it comes to discipline, but there are times where he is a little more harsh on her just because that's how he grew up. And for me, I have this podcast. I have so many resources. I do my research. I read a lot of books because I'm trying to heal from my own childhood trauma that I'm so hyper focused on not fucking my kid up. But anyways, that's another story. I just know how to talk to her better. And there's times where she does favor me over him. And I tell him, you know, maybe it's because of the way you talk to her. And he's a little more rough around the edges, which as most men are. But you know, we've been lucky that we don't have a lot of those incidences, but when we do, I try not to say it in front of our daughter. I'll just like pull him aside and say it. But yeah. But I'm also curious too, because we've been talking a lot about us as parents. Is Eric, I know, okay, Har got beat as a kid. I got beat as a kid. Lance didn't. Eric, what's your stance on it?
Well, yeah, I haven't been speaking too much. I've just been listening to you guys and kind of absorbing on my own and kind of like thinking back to my
Taking notes.
to my past and all that. But yeah, when I was a kid, man, I got beat so much. It was crazy. Like, so yeah, I would get the stick all the time, like with the feather stick, with the back scratchers, you know, the clothes hangers. Either they're wooden The wooden ones would break sometimes. So maybe but the metal ones were kind of hurt too much. So maybe the plastic ones. So yeah, I got beat tons. My sister, I don't remember seeing her get beat, but I'm pretty sure she did. And they would beat me in like, yeah, spanking with like, they wouldn't go with the hand though, because the hand would hurt them. So you might as well use like
Smart.
sticks and
They were
stuff.
smart, man.
Straight up, man. So, and then they would hit us on the hands as well. Like, just like when you take the stick and smack on the hand like 10 times if you did something wrong or something. And then you start to learn how to, if you cup your hand like this, it hurts more. So you got to leave it flat so that it doesn't hurt as much. So there's more surface. And then after a while, it stopped hurting because my hands,
We're
you get accustomed to the pain. So you're like,
Oh,
I was like,
man.
oh, whatever. So, so yeah, I got hit for sure as a kid.
So
And
two-part question to you, Eric, is when you were getting hit and you're trying to deflect, did your parents say, if you don't move your hand, you're gonna get it more? So you had to like openly be like, just beat me. Or like, no, I'm
Yeah.
serious. That is a serious question, you
Yeah.
guys. If
Are you asking because you had that?
Yes. So I need to know if I'm the only one. So would your parents or whoever's beating you was like, if you flinch, if you try to block what I'm doing, you're going to get twice as long. So did
Yeah.
they say that to you?
they did. They many times even say I was getting hit with my hand, and like I have to hold it out, and they're gonna hit it, right? And if I'm expecting it, I'd like back away, and then they'd be like, "If you back away again, you're getting two more." And I'm like, "All right, let's do it."
Okay, so it's not just me, because I thought like my parent or my mom didn't hit me. It was my dad. So my dad wasn't the only psycho parent who would do that then.
Yeah,
And like, what were things that you were getting in trouble for? Because, man, that's brutal. Like, I mean, I got a wooden stick that was against the wall. My dad would just rip it off the wall and he'd be like, "This is what you're getting hit with," and I'm like, "Fuck, the wooden spoon!" Like the wooden spoon's this big, you know?
Okay, I have a question for all of you then.
Jesus.
Maybe not Lance, because you said you didn't get beat. What are some of the things you got beat with? I can't believe we're playing this game. What are things you
I'll
got
tell
beat
you,
with?
I had one story because my grandma did used to beat me, but I thought I was smart because they had the feather duster, right? And that was like a bamboo stick, and so she just turn it around and use the bamboo side. But I thought I was clever by hiding it, and I was like, oh, she can't beat me now, right? So I hid it, and what did she do? She took the broomstick right off and beat me like
Oh,
even
wow.
harder because she was so mad at this point, and I was laughing because I was like, where did it go? And you learn after that. You're like, don't hide the feather stick, man. Just do it. Just take it. But you guys could go. So that was probably one of my worst weapons of choice.
yeah. For me, it's probably like the clothes hangers and like because my mom would hit me on the hands more, and my dad would hit me wherever else. So, and my mom would use these sticks those sticks that you sometimes use to hold up plants so that they grow straight. So she she
That
just
thing
pull one of those.
stings.
Yeah, pull those out, and she hit that until it broke, and then she'd like find another one. So, but I mean, it only went up until a certain age when I got too old and it stopped hurting. And well, at that time I was getting too old basically to get hit. I can't remember when that was, but yeah, like
Yesterday.
yeah,
How old? So
never stopped.
how old did the spanking stop for all of you then?
The last time I remember getting hit was I was 21.
Me
That's
too.
pretty old.
Actually, me too.
Whoa.
And
Oh, you too?
yeah, when my dad did that, I fucking took garbage bags and I asked my mom, "You good?" I put everything in the garbage bags, and I called my brother and I'm like, "I need to move out." No plan, nothing. I didn't even have a car. I was still going to school. I packed everything in garbage bags. I'm like, "Peace out." My dad's like, "We'll see you back in this house." I was like, "I'm never coming back to this house." It was the last straw. I was like, "Man, I'm in my 20s," and he hit me. I think we got into a fight about a pillow, and then it was just me and my other brother who was living there. So my dad tried to hit me. I was like, "Oh, you're not." So he's like chasing me around the house. I'm like, "You're not gonna hit me." So
Oh my
my
god.
brother comes up, Don, my brother Don comes upstairs. He's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "He's trying to hit me over a pillow." Because my dad's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm getting a pillow." And he's like, "Don't talk back to me." And I was like, "I wasn't. Like, the fuck is your problem?" Like, I didn't say the fuck was your problem, but I was like, "I wasn't." He's like, "Don't give me attitude." And so my dad had a gambling addiction. So it probably played into that, right? So he was mad, so he took it out on me. And then yeah, my brother tried to intervene, and my brother's like 6 foot, and my dad's like, a little smidge taller than me. And he's like, "Do you want to step up?" Yeah, it was crazy. So finally, me and my brother both packed our shit. And my brother was like 25 at the time. And he's like, "I've had enough." And when we moved out, I think my dad changed his tone. I mean, I was like in my 20s and I was still getting spanked. So, like, come on, man. Like, that's crazy. Yeah.
Lucky
That's
you
why
actually left. So that was why you moved out?
I moved out. And that's why I
I didn't know
still
that.
resented my dad. Like, like I hated him, my dad. Like, I had a relationship with him thereafter, but that was always in the back of my head. Like, you were just a shitty dad, but you know what? I'm not going to be a shitty parent. That's just no excuse for me to be shitty in any ways. So, although I have to say that my dad was the best grandpa. Like, my son loves my dad. My dad never, like, my dad was a softie when it came to his grandkids. So I was like, what the fuck's going on? Like, why?
That's a grandparent's job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their job is to just spoil the kid.
Exactly. Like my dad, now that you've heard stories about my dad, this is the same man who wanted to take my nephew, his other grandson, to the hospital because he had hiccups.
And he spanked you.
Right? And then he spanked me. So yeah, totally. When they become grandparents, everything, all of that is just out the window.
It's
So
true.
how old were you guys, the two of you guys, when the spanking stopped?
Lance, you go first.
I like I say, I can't really remember, but I mean, I think for my grandma, it was like I think when she realized, because my grandma's like I don't know, like 4 feet, right? Like she's short, little, girl. But I think when she realized like I was so big, I think she tried once and it didn't even hurt, and she was like, okay, I can't even like, and she's just like and I was like, no, grandma, like just don't. But yeah, I don't know when that was. Maybe I want to say like 16 when I was in high school.
Oh, high school.
That's still
Man.
pretty old, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
a guy.
For a
that's pretty
guy.
old.
Well, mind you, my grandma does not live here, so she lives in Vancouver. So when she came here or when I went there, it was like that kind of thing. And then my grandpa's bipolar, so he would like threaten you with a knife and tell you he's gonna kill you, type of thing. But he would never do it. But yeah, he was a nutcase.
Mhm.
I think for me, like mine stopped a wave of like my prime beating years were basically like before I was like starting grade 7 probably. I was like even before that, potentially before grade 6. So all my beating years were in the younger days. So and then they stopped after that. I don't know why, they just did. But
They got sick of it.
yeah,
I'm over it.
they probably got too lazy after that. I don't even know.
Too much effort.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
my 3 older brothers, I think they got probably in their teenage years, they never got spanked. I was the only one who continuously getting spanked. I also think that my dad knew that he could still control me even well into my 20s because I didn't say anything. And even when I was an adult, I never like would disrespect my dad. I think there was one time I've had enough and I told my dad to fuck off right in front of his face. I already had a kid at the time. And then when I told my dad to fuck off, I thought he was going to lunge for me because he was sitting in the chair and he was like, his fist was coming with his hand to like slap me or something. So I backed away, grabbed my brother's hand. I was like, let's get the fuck out of here because I swear to God, I think my dad's going to beat me. But I knew he wouldn't because my brothers would never let that happen. But I also think it's because my dad could still control me at the time living at his house because I don't know if you guys have ever received this like lecture where it's like, you know, you're at my house or my rules, even when I was in my 20s, and I was like, okay, then I don't want to be in your house. So,
Yeah. Well, you're lucky too, because you're saying that the reason why you moved out was because he hit you and that was the last straw. Like the last time my dad hit me, I was 21. I had nowhere to go. I stayed put in that house. And bringing this back to the difference between females and males when they're raised by Asian parents, like I wasn't allowed to move out until my brother moved out. But because my brother could do anything in the house, like he got away with everything, right? And he was comfortable there, so he wasn't moving. So I was more than ready to move out in my early 20s, but I couldn't because I had to wait for my brother, and he was cushy. He lived in the basement. He didn't have to do chores. He didn't, you know what I mean? He could come and go as he pleased. And I was just like, oh my God, I am ready to leave. So right when my brother bought a house, I was like, yes, it's my turn.
It's my turn.
Finally.
See, that's
sending him listings every day. Yo, check out this place.
Yeah, right? And yeah, so I had to wait. And we had to go in order for some fucked up reason. I don't know why. But I remember bringing it up to my mom one time. I told her, I'm like, you know, I kind of want to move out. And like, no, you have to wait for your brother to move out. Your brother's still here. And I'm like, so the fuck what? Like, he can do whatever he wants here. But that's the order that it went in. And then I didn't end up moving out till I was like 27.
Well,
damn,
yeah.
it was really 27 when you moved out. I was done with it. Like, I think my relationship with my parents got a bit better. But Eric, Lance, like, do you guys have siblings? Like, I mean, what was it like? Like, was it a fair share growing up with it, or everyone just equally was, you know, moving out and like getting disciplined?
Lance, well, I know you got a couple.
Well,
because you didn't have any sisters.
I
so-
don't have a, I didn't have a sister growing up, so it was a lot different for me. So I've never heard about that. You know, if you got to wait till your brothers move out, and I was the oldest, so I guess it was. I don't think my brothers really got like a real beatdown. Like I say, I mean, my parents never really like disciplined us in that way, so there'd be a lot of yelling. Like my mom was mainly the person yelling. My dad is like, man, he's probably one of the calmest guys I know. Like I've never even heard him shout at me, like honestly. So yeah, and I guess we were kind of, I probably took most of it in the sense of just the yelling and stuff. And then when my grandparents came, then yeah, I think a lot of us kind of got the beating. But then I think I got I think I got more of it for some odd reason, because my grandma would always tell me that you're the oldest, you got to teach them. So I got a lot of that. So if someone was doing something wrong, I'd also get hit for that, which was kind of weird in the way that I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, so anyways, yeah, but that's me. I don't know about you, Eric.
Well, I mean, so I do have a sister, but I don't remember. Honestly, my parents, they're protective of my sister, but my sister, man, I feel like she got everything. I feel like I was always the one that had to drive her everywhere and stuff like that. That they wouldn't let her drive. They'd be like, Eric, drive your sister. I'm like, what? She can drive. It's like, no, do it. You're the bigger brother. I'm like, oh. But like, so I feel like she doesn't clean, man. I clean. So
Interesting.
Don't tell her I said
Don't tell her.
I mean, it's already.
She's gonna listen to this and
It's
she's like,
live,
"You
man.
lied, Eric. You lied."
Yeah.
I clean.
But-
What do you mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting. So, well, for us, you know, and honestly, after me and my sister started thinking on our own and just talking back and stuff, my parents stopped doing really anything. Like they'll still yell, but you just take the yell and you're like, all right, what's next? So yeah, like, and I would always frequently break. Like I remember when I first started going out a lot late at night, and my parents would be like, all right, Eric, curfew is 11. So I'm like, all right. So the first night I go out, I come back at 11:15. I'm like, oh man, listen, I'm just 15 minutes late. That's all. They're like, okay. Then the next night, it's like 11, like 30. I'm like, oh, listen, I'm just half an hour. They're like, all right, don't let it happen. I'm like, all right. And then the midnight, and then they would start calling. And after like a week, they stopped calling. I still remember when I showed up at home one night at 3 a.m. For some reason I had blood on my pants. I can't remember what happened. I like walked out into the door. This was like in when I was like 21, 22, and my dad just happened to be out, I don't know, going to the bathroom, and he sees me and he's like, what? It's like, what happened to the 11 p.m. curfew? I'm like, yo, I'm only 3 hours. Oh no, what is that? 5 hours later, something like that. It's okay. It's okay. So yeah, the discipline kind of like stopped after that. They stopped really. And my sister, she goes out even more longer than me and later than me, and they just, after a while, they just stopped. They're just like, we can't control these kids anymore. Just let them
Lucky.
let them be.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
So
For me, I broke curfew one time. I remember it so clearly. I remember where I was and who I was with. And and I also and I was the only one out of my friends who had a curfew. And they would always make fun of me. They'd be like, oh, we got to plan something this weekend, but we got to do it early so Giselle can come. Or sometimes I'd get mad at them, like, because they wouldn't want to hang out till like 9 or 10.
Mhm.
And I had to be home by like 11.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, well, God, why can't you guys hang out earlier? And so they'd always have to move their plans for me. And one time I came home past 11. I came home, I tried to open the door and it wouldn't open. And so I called my dad. I was like, Dad, the door won't open. And he's like, you're not going to come home on time? Then don't come home at all. And he had put hockey tape around the lock.
What?
So that I couldn't open the door. But then in my head, I'm like, okay, so where am I supposed to go? Right. So eventually he let me in, but then he like lectured me for like another couple hours on like the importance of coming home on time. And then my sister started doing the same thing eventually when she got old enough to. And, they stopped and they would be like, just don't let it happen again. I'm like, what the fuck?
You're like, joke's on you. It's going to take you longer to get the hockey tape out.
Yeah, you're going to damage the door.
Yo, man, my dad. So I lived where we lived at. Is a bungalow. So my dad would position himself so you can't sneak in and out of the house, because the bedrooms were all on the main floor and then the other bedrooms are in the basement. So he could see you from where he's laying in the living room, at the kitchen, the sliding door in the back, the kitchen door on the side, and the door there. And my dad purposely put one of those, like, you know how you have the door and then you have like a glass door that's there, so there's like two doors you can open. Well, this glass door goes like, it creaks so you can fucking hear it, right? So the thing is, like, even then my brother was like, my dad's like, you guys can't go out of the house or whatever. So they're all like, oh, we're just hanging out in Harlene's room. But literally my brother would be popping off the window screens from my bedroom. Everybody would come in and out. And then my dad would give me shit because he's like, who's coming to your bedroom window? I was like, nobody. I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, then why is my flower bed and my fence like all like trampled on? I was like, I don't know. And I knew it was my brother, but then my dad thought it was a boy that I was letting at my door, like my window. And I was like, my dad's biggest fear was me getting pregnant. And at the time I liked boys, but not enough to like have sex with them. I think my dad didn't trust me with that. I was like, joke's on you. I didn't even have sex. Like, ugh, I don't want to do that. Like, it's just funny because my dad didn't trust me. And he could have trusted me because I actually made really great decisions when I was a teenager. I just wanted to go out and party. That was it.
Yeah.
He just was
Have
like,
fun. Yeah.
No. I was like, yo, you're telling me I can't have sex, but you're praising my 3 brothers for getting laid or whatever. Like, it was stupid. Not that I wanted to, but I was like, that is just the biggest crock of shit.
Yeah.
Another double standard.
Double
yeah.
standards. Yeah, I hear you. I'm just starting to think back now after all these stories, and I gotta think like I think half of the reason why I wasn't disciplined is because my parents were never home. Like, they were always working.
Yeah.
And I think when I was like 13, 14, I was already starting to take care of my brothers on my own. So really, we didn't get disciplined because now I'm thinking, I'm like, yo, I don't think my dad ever had these conversations with me about curfew or anything because he just wasn't really there. Not to say that he wasn't there. He just was he had, I think at the time, 2 or 3 jobs. And so did my mom. So it was just kind of like, we were off to fend for ourselves. So they didn't even realize if we were doing bad things or not. And they probably felt so bad that by the time they got home, maybe we did something bad. They're just like, oh, well, what do you expect? We weren't home anyway. So maybe that's half of the reason. I've never really had that conversation with him. So maybe the key is don't be at home and just leave your kids there, and you don't have to think about disciplining, right?
Exactly.
There we go, guys.
Exactly.
They don't have time to do bad shit because they're trying to keep themselves alive.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. Well, but the thing is, my dad worked, like Monday to Friday, my dad worked. He worked 2, 3 jobs. But the thing is, my dad got weekends off. And I'm like, fuck. Like, it sucked because my dad was there all the time. And it's like, when I'd ask him, I was like, hey, can I go out? Usually my mom will say yes. My mom would be like, ask your dad. My dad would be like, ask your mama. And one time my mom just told me to ask my dad. And I was like, oh, mom said yes. Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, mom said yes. And he just would let me out. But then it's stupid because it's like 5 o'clock. He's like, make sure you come home at 7. I was like, Matt, it's 5 o'clock. You want me to be home in 2 hours. By the time I get on the bus to go somewhere, it's time to take the bus back home. Like, it's crazy, Like, I try to explain that to my dad, and my dad would be like, I don't know, figure that shit out on your own. You got 2 hours. And I'm like, well, I'm just not going to bother, like, getting on the bus. Like, it was ridiculous.
I always wondered, like, I mean, because I didn't have a sister, I always wondered if the girls were getting it more harsh in that sense, like, than guys. I don't know why it is. If that's just, I don't know if it's an Asian thing or just a parenting thing. I don't really know. But
I mean, I lived it differently, right? Like my sister, she
Yeah.
goes out more than me, and like, it's like
that's true. Yeah.
So but like, I think it's interesting as well. Like all these stories that you guys are talking about, like of what your parents do, like taping the locks or standing by like a screen door that creaks and stuff. Like when your kids end up going out and stuff like that, how are you gonna change? Like it's because like in doing it like this, the parents don't trust you. It shows a straight up lack of trust. So like if say like your kids end up going out and then there's like, how would you just be like, listen, be honest, how late are you gonna be, how long are you, maybe like how are you gonna change that?
Well, for me, I want to instill trust from the very, very beginning, because I would always tell her like that when I was little, I lost my dad's trust like at a very young age, because he would say things like, tell me the truth and you won't get in trouble. Mm-hmm. So I tell him the truth, and then I just got beat anyways. So there was no point in telling the truth anymore. Yeah. And I would always lie. I became so immune to lying about things that's just how our relationship was now. And I could tell too that at times they knew I was lying, but that's just how the norm now, because that's how I grew up. So for me, I want to just ensure that at a very young age, even like now, that I teach my daughter that I trust her and that she can come to me. And I feel like I'm still slipping up on it, because there's times where she'll lie to me and she's straight up blatantly lying to me and I know it. And I'm just like, why is she lying? But yeah, so that's something I really got to work on. I know she's only 4 and she makes a lot of like, she tells my dad I hit her, and my dad's like, she said you hit her today. I was like, I did not. I don't hit my kid.
At 4 years old. Wow.
At 4. I don't know where she got it from. I think she just wanted to my dad to be like, oh, are you okay? And like get mad at me or something. I don't know what her reasoning was, but yeah, like I just want to make sure that to establish that I want to let her know that I trust her to make the right decision. And by trusting her, I'm also trusting myself and showing that I'm confident in the way I raised her. that she can make that decision for herself. And if she can't, then she'll have to learn from her own mistakes. And then that's on her, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, for me, I'm a little bit of an unconventional parent. So my son's like, he's in grade 10 now and he's 15. And even when he was in junior high, like I even said, like, what time are you going to come home? I asked him, what time are you coming home? I'm not going to give him, I mean, if he says 2 in the morning, I'll be like, get the fuck out of here. You're not coming at 2 in the morning. He'll be like, oh, it's done at 7 or at 9. I was like, okay, cool, 9. I told him, I was like, I'm going to straight up tell you right now, if you're going to tell me you're going somewhere, it better be where you say you're going, because you have to check in with me. I was like, sometimes I'll ask who he's with, but I tell him, like, listen, you're going to do bad shit. I get it. But remember what your repercussions are, that mom can't get you out of it. If you break the fucking law, I can't get you out of that jam. That's on you. But when it comes to curfew, and it's not because he's a boy, it's more like a trust thing. So if he says he's going to be late, I don't, honestly, sometimes my son comes home at 1 a.m., but I know he's with his cousins or they're chilling somewhere. It's because what he does is he texts me and says, Mom, I'm at Genesis. And then when he says, Mom, I'm leaving Genesis, I'm going to XYZ's house. Can you come pick me up? Or I'm getting a ride. It's because he tells me where his every move is. I don't necessarily need to know the details. And I know where Giselle was saying, I don't know why my kid lies sometimes. Like, I know you're lying. You know what? I know when my kids, like, I'm not going to let that affect me, because I tell my son, lie what you want to lie. Like, and I get there's going to be times that he's going to lie to me about things, and I'm not going to sweat it. What I want to know is that he's going to be truthful with me where it matters, because I just don't want to sweat all the other things. Sometimes he's just not going to tell me because I'm not the right person to have that conversation with, because he's not comfortable with me. And I have to be okay with that. But as long as he has the support and the resources that he needs, I'm happy with that. And it doesn't necessarily have to come from me. So yeah, so I'm open with it when it comes to curfew and stuff, and with discipline as well. So I think when he's more scared when I'm disappointed and when I don't say anything. When I'm silent, he knows I don't have to say anything, and I'm like, I just don't have anything to say, and he'll be like, Mom. I was like, Jada, I don't want to talk, and he just knows that I'm fucking mad when I don't say anything. Yeah.
So when those times comes where you're disappointed at them, how do you guys discipline them now?
I take stuff away. Like, he loves to play basketball, and sometimes his dad will forget he's being grounded. And I was like, no. And I even said to him, I said, you fucking test my patience, I will rip that computer out of your thing. And I know he's bigger than me, but if I snap my finger, I was like, you might be bigger than me, buddy, but I'm telling you, I will throw this computer out. Just test me. I'm a crazy motherfucker. And I even tell my kid this, I swear, because listen, he's going to hear that. I'm like, don't test me when it comes to that. I'm not going to hit you. I'm not going to spank you. But when I lose my shit, I promise you, like, the whole Redstone's going to hear it.
Like Harlene, I'm shitting my pants right now.
Are you?
I'm scared of you.
Jesus Christ, man. I'm like, man, if I was your son, you better not do something wrong, boy.
I remember, like, so the one time where my parents gave me the silent treatment, like, that was the one moment I vividly remember in my life where I thought my life was over. This was like when me and my sister were kids, and I was playing with her in the basement or something, and I pushed her. Like, back then, well, it's a thing now again, but when you had heaters along the wall, like on the like near the bottom, I pushed my sister, and her face, her cheek hit that heater where it was hot. Ooh. Which basically burned her cheek, and it was bleeding, and to this day she has a scar there. So next time you see my sister, you'll see a scar right there. I thought my life was
Eric did that.
Yeah, I thought my life at that moment was over, because, like, she's like a girl's face, and I got her right there on the cheek. I was like, my life is over. I need to run away. I need to run away from home right now. I was like, I don't even know, like 9 or something, and my parents gave me the silent treatment, and I knew they didn't spank me or they I was most scared of my life right there when they gave me the silent treatment. That was the worst for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not I'm not sure when you guys' worst moment, like what was your worst, like the craziest thing you've ever done to kind of like upset your parents?
Is it like this thing that you got the most in trouble for?
Kind of like that, yeah. For me, it was pushing my sister in a heater, which was pretty bad.
Honestly, I don't know. It's just like a collection of all these different things. And I don't know what the worst one was, but okay, one that sticks out the most in my mind was when I took the bus and I lied about it. Stupid, right?
You lied about
You lied
what?
about taking the bus?
I was in 6th grade, I believe, and at the time I wasn't allowed to take the bus. I was not allowed to take the bus. And coming from Sunridge Mall, I told my parents that I could go to Sunridge Mall with my friends only if I had a ride home.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, yeah, I had a ride home, but I really didn't. I took the bus home with my friends. And then I don't know why my mom decided to play Nancy Drew, but she found out that I didn't actually get a ride home. So she was like asking me, who drove you home? She asked me all these questions, and then she asked my friends. And then we had to come up with these lies to try and cover our tracks. But because back then we didn't have fucking smartphones, I can't text you and be like, oh my God, if my mom asks, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I had to like see them at school, and then we had to like sit and be like, okay, if my mom calls you, this and this happened or whatever. And it turned into this whole thing. And in the end, they found out that I was lying and that I only said it so that I could go to the mall.
Mhm.
And yeah, that stuck out in my mind so well, because it turned into now my mom doesn't trust my friends and doesn't trust my friends' parents, and parents were involved. It was so crazy. And that's the only reason why I remember it, because I was like, this is so fucking dumb, because I took the bus.
I was gonna say, Giselle, you took in the bus at grade 6. I mean, I was scared to take the bus. Grade 6. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm taking the bus. Where's the bus? Where's that gonna take me to? I don't even think I knew how to take the bus.
Well, all my friends were doing it. All my friends were taking the bus
Ah.
everywhere, and I was not allowed.
So-
And you know what's funny is that my grandma only got her license. She got her license when she was already grandma. She got her license just so she could drive us to and from school, so we wouldn't have to take the bus.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a good
how
grandma.
strict my family was with us being in. Like, I was coddled. Clearly, I was so coddled. I was not allowed to take the bus.
It's taken,
I didn't take the bus by myself until I was well into high school.
maybe they were thinking back, like, is taking the bus in the Philippines, is that dangerous?
Oh, yeah.
Not-
Oh, okay.
Well,
Okay.
it's normal though, but taking the bus in the Philippines is worse because they have like jeepneys. You guys have heard of a jeepney,
Jeepneys?
right? Where you just hop on, hop off, and it's it
Oh.
is dangerous, but like it's, I don't know.
That's
I-
their
I
way of
really don't know
life,
the
though. That's
reasoning
the
for
thing,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how they got everywhere.
Yeah. Maybe they think of that and then they think that's the same thing that's happening in Calgary. So no
Yeah.
taking the bus for you. You know?
Yeah, right? Probably.
Oh, man.
Well, I mean, the only time that I can think of that stuck out that I really disappointed my parents, which I mean, I talk about it on my podcast, but it's because Giselle highlighted it, is when I got arrested. It was
Whoa.
like my dad wasn't.
Who are these people?
I know.
Lance
right?
is so scared of you right now. Like, I can
He's like,
hear it in
why
his
did we
voice."
ask them to come on? So, so I got arrested. And my dad actually came to get me out of like the cell or whatever, but he wasn't mad. He wasn't. You know who was mad? My mom. This was the first time my mom fucking whooped my ass. And my mom's a quiet, reserved lady, and she was pissed. Like, she pulled my hair, she took the wooden spoon, and she's like, my only daughter, like, why do you act like you're a boy? You're not a boy. Like, I explained to my dad why I got into a fight with this girl, and my dad's like, so cool with it, and he's like, oh, he's just, she's just protecting herself. And on the second occasion this happened to me, which I didn't get arrested quite yet. I knew I was about to get arrested. I called my dad at work and I was like, I gotta tell you something. Don't get mad. And the first thing that came out of my dad's mouth was, are you pregnant? I was like, the fuck? I was like,
Oh my god.
no. And I was like, I think I'm gonna get arrested either at home or at school. I don't know when, but this is what happened. My dad's like, okay, we'll talk about it when we get home. So, not so much my dad, but my mom.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that stuck out, that my parents were definitely disappointed and they had to shell out a lot of cash
Oh, right.
for it. So, I mean, I felt awful and I felt bad, but if it wasn't for my parents shelling out a lot of cash so I wouldn't have a permanent record, so I'm thankful for that. But I did learn my lesson, okay? Not thugging over here.
Oh,
Just kidding.
that's like intense. Because now I'm thinking back, you're going, well, what's the worst thing? I'm like, I think I've been like a good kid my whole life now. Like I'm pretty sure I'm a perfect kid when I grew up. So
Well, now-
maybe that's
now-
why I didn't get beat down so much. 'Cause I was just such a good kid.
No wonder why I
You
got
sound like
beat,
you
right?
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. No one deserves a beating. Okay, let's just throw that out there right now. But yeah, I'm looking back. I'm going, well, what's the worst thing that I've done? Now I'm like, man,
You're like, I was a perfect angel.
I was an angel. Like,
Yeah,
man,
you're like, I got a C on my exam. Oh man, this doesn't compare really to this story.
Oh yeah.
that's it. That was I think that's the disappointment that my parents were like, you got a C? What? That's it, boy.
Yeah.
But no, I'm trying to think back. I really can't think of anything that I was totally disappointed my parents on. So yeah, I'm gonna just leave
Well, I
it
mean-
there. That I was.
Yeah. After Harlene, you
Sorry,
either gotta
guys.
one up that,
I
or you
know.
gotta
Oh,
like,
shit.
or you just not talk. Yeah, exactly.
And this is what I
So-
told my this is the reason why I tell my son. I was like, listen, like, you do not want to be there. Like, things are different now than when we were growing up, and the way that kids are being brought up and the way kids argue and fight. It's not the same when we grew up, right? It's really dirty now compared to when we were growing up. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to say using your fist is any violence is wrong. I'm saying that right now. And I
Yeah.
fully do not condone what I did. And I always talk about it on the podcast saying, do not do this. I know we laugh and joke about it, but this is why I give back, because it's so important, because I took a lot from the community and I need to give back straight up.
Mhm.
Like I said, like I tell my kid, I was like, sometimes you might not be fortunate and there's nothing you can do. You're going to have a record and that stays with you for the rest of your life. If you think that it's even cool, I was like, I know people who can't leave countries, can't do things with their families because they have a record. It's just not
Yeah.
cool.
Not
For
worth
sure,
it.
It's not worth
for
it.
sure.
No.
Awesome. So, Giselle, Harlene, thank you again for coming on to our show. I like me myself. I mean, I don't have kids, but I learned quite a lot just from absorbing what you guys, well, and Lance as well too, what you guys are saying and the stories you're talking about. I think for me, the two biggest things that I'm taking away out of this is that there's really not one effective way to discipline your kids. Each kid is different, right? Like for example, timeout doesn't work with Lance's kid because she'll just talk back and give you attitude, but it might work for another kid and stuff. And another thing that it was interesting for me that I took away was, Giselle, when you were talking about the trust of your parents and how when there's any issues that happen for you, the parents are the last to call. It's the same with me and my sister. If anything happens for us, my parents are the last people. I will call anybody else. And then
I'll call my pizza guy.
Yeah, exactly. I will call anybody else. And then at the very bottom of the list is my parents, because we don't even tell them. If they ask us, what are we doing? We just say, I'm just going out. We got stuff to do, people to see. And then that's it. And then that's the extent of the conversation.
Lucky.
Yeah. So because we don't even, but like for me, this was very educational experience. I don't even know if I want to have kids now after this. But, so
I'll tell you one thing. I learned a great deal, and after hearing about all the stories, I'm just hoping this pandemic will stick around for a while so I can lock my kids up for the rest of their
You
lives.
have a reason to now.
The rest
They
of
can't
their
get
lives.
arrested. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm getting too scared about letting them out into the real world now. So no, I want to thank the both of you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. And I think this is going to be a great episode for some of the parents out there that are listening. Because I know I've learned a lot, and I think some of the takeaway is definitely don't beat your kid, but to try to earn their trust and respect, right? And I think that is the ultimate key. You don't want your kids to be fearful of you, so but you want your kids to be respectful. So that's how you're gonna do it. Well, I think that's the journey of being a parent, because every kid is different, and you gotta just trial and error, figure it out as you go, right?
And don't get arrested. So, 'cause that gets difficult though.
Right?
That gets difficult.
That's what everyone's gonna be like. Oh, there's Harlene, the one that I got arrested.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
no
thank you.
problem. And for our listeners out there who also want to share their stories on, what they got beat with, whether it be sticks, pucks, or tennis rackets, whatever, we'd like to hear about that, because I think those stories are interesting. You can let us know, send us an email. We're at offthewalk.info@gmail.com, and make sure to follow us on Instagram as well to check out our newest episodes, and also follow Hard as a Mother. I love that title, by the way. It just, I don't know what, I think I know why, but like the name is,
It's hard as a mother. It's hard to be a mother, I'll tell you that.
It's hard as a, just flows right
so
off.
many meanings behind that.
Yes. So, and also we just got a new donation type of thing. So if some of our listeners out there would like to support us, whether you want to pay $1 or whatever, it's on our Instagram, on our link tree. You can support us right there. If you pay $50, I'll do whatever you want. So like, but if you just want to do like $1, $2, that's
Including a wooden stick to his hand.
yeah.
Will you let me beat you with a bamboo stick for $50? I'm just kidding. I'm
let's
so
go.
kidding.
Let's go. $50, let's go. So yeah, thanks listeners for listening in, and until next time, thanks for walking with us.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.